This episode of I Work for Him is brought to you by SaferNet, online at safernet.com.
You've tuned into I Work for Him, the voice of collaboration for the faith and work movement.
We are your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg, and our mission is to transform the workplace of every Christian into a mission field. What does that look like in your workplace? Well, let's find out right now.
You know, life is tough. I mean, Jesus very specifically said in John 16:33, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So why is it so many Christians seem surprised when their life takes a wild turn? Do you read your Bible, people? You know this. The closer you walk with the Lord, the more you live by faith, and the more your world is going to feel like a hurricane is going on all around you, and you're in the eye of that hurricane. That is the kind of 6 months that Martha and I have had. We're going to take you these next 20 minutes or so and tell you the highs and lows of our 2024 and talk about where I Work for Him is going next. Martha, it's been quite a year, hasn't it?
It sure has, Jim. But it's okay. You know, this is the process of what God is doing in our life, and we're just very transparently going to share it with everybody today so that we can be encouraged by each other.
Yeah, I just think it's important that we are real. We're often interviewing other people, and sometimes we just figured we should share our story of the things that God has us going through. You know, it really, 2024 started with the end of 2023. A very good friend of mine, in fact, 6 good friends of mine died between Thanksgiving and the 29th of December. And the 29th of December was my very good friend, Jeff Norris, right here in Marionville, Missouri. Incredible losses, and around the globe of people just dropping dead. And 6 of my friends, and really since then, 3 more, all of a sudden dying. So many friends lost suddenly, without explanation. You almost wonder if there's a pattern, but really, it just leaves a lot of widows and widowers out there who need somebody to come alongside of them. But it's just been tough mentally to deal with all that.
You know, and I think, Jim, something to add to that is the fact that it really gives you that pause where we look and we say, you know, what has God done in these people's lives? And the amazing thing is we've had amazing things to celebrate in those lives that were lost, that they were lives well lived, but it also makes us realize that we never know when our time is going to be done, and to live life with the abundance, even in the hard, that God has called us to. And that's been just a real reality for us. And I think that that's really one of the biggest takeaways for me is, you know, looking at their lives and saying, you know, essentially, what am I doing with the dash between my beginning and my end?
And if one day you find the podcast I'm missing, I'm gone. People, do not mourn me. I am having a party with the Lord. I'm ready to go.
Wait, but that would mean I'd have to take over the technology, and so it probably won't be there.
Wow. Okay, so we had another really unique. Well, I want to talk about. Okay, that was a low time, but this winter, while we were dealing with processing all of these friends who had died, we got to take our garage that we had kind of bought off of a lot and put it onto our homestead here in our little house on the prairie in Missouri, and we finished up a garage on the inside and wired it all up for electricity and built Martha her own portion and her own she shed. She now has a garden shed and the back half of our garage, which is her own she space.
So that's been just a fun project that we got to do together, Jim. Is that I think why you're highlighting it? There was some hardship in that too. Because did you all know that if a building is built square, but it's brought to a property and tweaked, then it is no longer square. And when you go to build walls in a non-square garage, it is quite the challenge. But it's been a fun project, and I'm looking forward to the days ahead where we can spend more time out there just to actually creating things for fun, maybe even some Christmas gifts. You know, when you said what time of year it is, it's like, okay, we know that we are way past the halfway point. And for me, I always measure it by how many months till Christmas.
Less than 5.
So I better get going in that cottage of mine and get some gifts made.
But the interesting, for those of you that don't know, Martha and I love to do remodeling projects, and we have rehabbed an entire commercial building. We have rehabbed a house, along with my son-in-law, Caleb, who helped a ton, and his dad, Jeff, who's no longer with us. But this garage project we pretty much did on our own, and it turned out great. Martha, you're going to have to post a picture.
That'd be fun.
In the notes with
I could
this.
do that.
That'd be great.
I could do that.
We had a really cool thing happen, though, in March, which was also involved a few challenges.
Yeah. So one of our granddaughters came to live in Missouri, and this has been an amazing time. Kind of think of yourselves, if you are empty nesters, so those of you that are, that all of a sudden you have a little one, 5 years old, in your little home with, not a whole lot of space, readjusting our schedule and our activities and even the food that we eat and the timing of things. It's been a lot of things that we've had to say, you know what? It reminds me of parenting for the first time when all of a sudden you're like, whew, my stuff doesn't matter anymore. This little one is the priority and the one that we need to focus on. And so for us empty nesters, it's been quite an adjustment, but a really great one, because seeing life through the eyes of a 5-year-old, there's nothing like it, because the big problems of the world are not there. The sad problems are things like a balloon popping and getting bug bites and things like that. And so it's been a time for us to slow down, to be able to have a schedule that is pretty rigid, which again, as empty nesters, is not something you always do. And then just really saying, Lord, teach us in this moment who we need to be.
Now, as part of that, Martha just mentioned, so our granddaughter is, gluten-free and sugar-free and dye-free. And so Martha said...
That's how you eat, right, Jim?
Yeah, and so Martha said we had to change the way we ate. No, I didn't change how the way I eat. I just felt guilty all the time. So one of my favorite things, Martha goes to Aldi, one of the greatest grocery stores on the planet, is sometimes they have little white powdered donuts. And my granddaughter looked at me and she goes, "What are you eating, Grandpa?" This is like a piece of toast, but it's got gluten in it and sugar.
I'm pretty sure you called it a white biscuit.
White biscuit. It's like a white biscuit. Because she made me feel guilty because I'm eating donuts and she can't have donuts. She's eating gluten-free bread with nothing on it. And sometimes I give her butter and she thinks she's died and gone to heaven. And I'm feeling guilty. It's the other day I was having cereal and she's like, "What's in that, Grandpa?" I'm like, I am tired of feeling guilty. I just want to eat.
It's okay, honey.
It's okay. But our granddaughter...
She's actually very gracious about it. She's just curious. So, but she doesn't give you a hard time. So the guilt is all on your own, honey. So you're carrying that one.
It is. I'm carrying it. And she wants to know why my water's green. I'm like, because it's tasty and it's Mountain Dew. Okay. All right. One of the real challenges of this spring has been our son, Joshua. He's not been the challenge, but Joshua has been suffering from having strokes, and it was caused by an injury, and it has been so hard to deal with. When you have a son who's 33 years old and starts having strokes, and he's perfectly healthy. Our son Joshua is healthy. He eats green stuff without being told, like kale and arugula, nobody's making him. He just eats it. It's like, what's wrong with you? You didn't grow up in my household.
He does not take that from you.
No, he doesn't. But that's tough to try to reconcile having your boy having strokes at 33 years old.
But we're celebrating that he has been stroke-free for many weeks now, and we're just praying for that continued recovery. But it's such a helpless feeling, and I am sure that there are people out there that have other things that they've dealt with in their life where you can't fix it. You can't make it go away. You can't help it in any way. But we can, because we know the power of prayer, and we have had people across the globe praying for Joshua, for his health, for his protection. And we have seen that he has been protected over and over again, because he's having to really lay low and take care of himself, which is hard with a house full of kids, of a family, and so we're just grateful that we do have the most powerful thing that we can do, and that is to pray.
But sometimes, to be honest with you, you come out and you say the words, "Well, all I can do is pray."
Yeah.
But when you realize that's the best thing you can do, but sometimes you just, when you're a parent, you just want to do something, and there's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do. You can go to visit him at the hospital, but when it's 1,120 miles to the hospital, that's a long drive.
But again, changing that way we're talking, Jim, because there isn't nothing we can do.
Right, exactly.
It's
But it's what
that
you
constant
feel.
reminder. We
Okay.
do feel helpless, but we have the greatest helper of them all and the great physician. And, you were talking with somebody else locally here the other day and saying, all healing is temporary because eventually eternity.
All healing on earth.
All
is
healing
temporary.
on earth is temporary, yes. And so having that perspective, but being forced to have that perspective, being forced to actually face it and to make that realization, it has been a struggle. And again, we're not just wanting to sit here and talk all about our struggles, but being real with you and realizing that everyone listening has a story that they're going through, and being able to transparently talk about how on a daily basis we have to keep reminding ourselves trust. Jim, I think it's a key time for you to share, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 and what the Lord's really been telling you there.
Through all of the spring, God has just reminded me, as I've wrestled with him many times in the middle of the night, just Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And in all your ways, not some of your ways, not a part of your ways, but on all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. For me, the trust in the Lord thing seemed pretty easy, but the lean not on your own understanding, I'm in my late 50s. I got a lot of understanding, but through a lot of this...
And we have Google.
And we have
right?
the Google.
So we think we can get all the understanding.
Right. And so it just... God just reminded me, in this, there's nothing you can do but just trust me. So talk to me about it. And that was good. And so that's what we do. Now, some of you know we live in Southwest Missouri now, and we moved my parents from Arizona to be in our side yard. So that in their 90s, we were there to help them out. They're still living independently and doing pretty good. But whenever we go on a road trip, which we do for I Work for Him, we went on a road trip to Florida in April for the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce huge what was it? Something World Expo, Spiritual World Expo.
There you go.
And we always have my sister, Sue, and her husband, Jeff, come down from Minnesota to be in my house so that in case mom and dad need anything, they're
just
available.
Your house, not my house. They're in my house too.
Yeah. Okay. So, point well taken. So we get on the road trip and we get to Orlando and my mom falls and breaks 2 bones in her pelvis.
Mm-hmm.
Again, nothing we can do except for praying, which is the best thing we can do. But at the same time we're dealing with all that, then we're just grateful that God had given us the foresight to have my sister here so she could handle it all. So we could do the job of emceeing and being a part of a super great event. And if you haven't checked out the U.S. Christian Chamber, I totally, we're going to talk about the event in just a minute, but check it out online at uschristianchamber.com. And I'm just super grateful for that. My mom is doing good today, and she's back walking around today. She's ornery, just like normal, in a great way.
Everything is good. It's funny because I was just reading the story of Joseph and being reminded.
I was feeling more like Job, but you're feeling more like Joseph?
Well,
Okay.
yes, and because I think it's really relevant because Joseph, went through, it did not make any sense. He'd had all these dreams. God showed him what his future was going to be, yet he was in prison. His brothers sold him into slavery, all that. But ultimately, at the end, it was to preserve the very family that it felt like had turned on him. And so it was, to me, that's just been such a encouragement, even just the last couple of days when I read it in the children's Bible that we've been reading with our 5-year-old.
Yeah, that's right.
Just this story that we have no idea what God sees outside of time. We're so constrained by right now, this spring, this summer, getting ready for, oh my goodness, fall, I almost said, but it's still hot out, right? So we're not really there yet. But just the reality that we have no idea what God has for our future, but I know the plans he has for me, plans for hope in a future. And I am so grateful for that.
And what's great is whenever we say plans for a hope, our granddaughter says, and don't forget a future, because that's what she says. So not only is our youngest daughter and her husband struggling because his father died in December, they've been working through those issues, and our son, our middle child, our son has had 4 strokes, and that's been a major issue. Then our oldest daughter's been doing foster care for 2 teenagers, and it was a phenomenal opportunity, but really difficult when those 2 foster kids, after almost 18 months, then went to go be adopted into another family. And so at one point in time, all of our kids are really struggling. And again, mom and dad, they're just mom and dad. We're not superhuman. And so it's teaching us all to really pray. And as we've been praying for our kids since the day they were born or the day they became part of our family, that's what we just are reminded to do, to pray for our kids and our grandkids every day. You know, when life gives you so many things to manage, it's just good to know that when important tasks can be delegated, that important tasks can be delegated and taken care of. We turn to SaferNet to help protect our computers at work, at home, all of our electronic devices. SaferNet gives us virus protection, a VPN, internet controls, website filters. It's never a good idea to wait for something bad to happen and then try to respond. Get SaferNet in place today by going to safernet.com, safernet.com. You'll never regret it. It's helping us really do a great job here at I Work for Him. So, Martha, let's do some highs of the year. We've had some incredible things that we've lived through. We've shared some of the challenges, some of the adversity, but remember, God always uses adversity in our lives to take us from who we are to who He can use more effectively. So maybe we're being prepared for something.
I'm pretty sure we're all being prepared for something, even if it's just to be more like Christ. And I say just. See,
Wow.
we have to really watch our words.
You've got a serious messaging issue today.
Well, because, we say those things, like all I can do is pray. Maybe I'm just becoming more like Christ. Well, no, that's a really big thing. I hope that we are, and I hope that these situations help us to lean in more to Him and help us to be more like Christ. Before you even bring up the first event, Jim, I was thinking about the opportunity I had this spring to gather with 21 other Faith and Work for Women organizations in Dallas and talk about better collaboration, how we can work together, how we can model what that looks like. And out of that group has come a monthly prayer call. And I had that call just this morning. And it's such a reminder that to take what we just said even further and lift each other up in prayer when we don't have the words to pray or when we have things to celebrate and we're just seeking the Lord's will on something. I'm just very grateful for the power of collaborative prayer.
Yeah, what a fantastic reminder. And the Faith and Work for Women movement is really fantastic. And there's so much collaboration in the ministries and the Faith and Work for Women side of the Faith and Work movement.
Yes.
Martha, we had the opportunity to MC an event in Orlando this year on behalf of the U.S. Christian Chamber. And we are founding members of the U.S. Christian Chamber. We're on the board of directors of the U.S. Christian Chamber. But probably some of the most fun we've had already this year was MCing that event with over 300 people from around the world, which it's the U.S. Christian Chamber. But people want to know from around the world. It was so great. People came.
Well, that's because the International Christian Chamber was also there, Jim.
That's right.
And we are, as U.S. Christian Chamber, we have people, that all melds together because we are a country involved in the International Christian Chamber as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was a gathering of business people and ministry people, all focused on ministering to people out there in their workplaces. The U.S. Christian Chamber, with Crystal Parker at the helm, is an incredible organization. It was so much fun just to see the fellowship going on. It was so great just to be there. It was 3 powerful days, exhausting days, but we had some great people walking alongside of us. We had Eric Floyd, and we had...
I don't know who all you're thinking of,
the
but
event lady.
Incredible people that came alongside to make the event happen. And you know what else happened at that event is the launch of the Kingdom Commerce book that we participated in and wrote a chapter. Because the whole focus of the Christian Chamber is, you can't have a business without profit. You need commerce to make things happen, but what are we doing with that commerce and really having a kingdom perspective? And so that is just an exciting side note that the book was launched during the Christian Chamber. What else?
Well, because we're doing this live and we're recording this, it was the event planner.
Joy.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Now you can relax. Okay, keep going.
Fantastic. So in Dallas, we participated in the Faith and Work Summit, where people that are involved in discipling workplace believers from all over the country and again around the world came together to share what God is using them to do in their locales. And sometimes those locales are worldwide, sometimes they're countrywide, sometimes they're citywide. And people came and shared best practices, and they just shared, here's what God is doing. And totally, look, there's another one coming up in 2026. Looks like it could be in Cincinnati. Just stay tuned right here at I Work For Him. We'll let you know when that's coming up again. Again, another gathering of incredible believers, a lot of time of fellowship, a lot of time of prayer, and a lot of time of just sharing what is God up to. So much fun. And it was in Dallas.
And what we know I Work For Him is all about is letting people know, letting you, the listeners, the watchers, the subscribers know what God is doing so that you can participate, whether it's local to your area, something virtual, whatever it might be, something you get to travel to. And I think that was the highlight, Jim, for us, is that it's finally like we get to have more than one event in a year where people get to travel, be together, gather, have koinonia, have fellowship, and really get to hear each other's hearts in a more personal way.
They can have koinonia, but could you spell it? That's really the issue. What's been fun for us on our off time, we've been exploring Branson, Missouri, the greatest place of family entertainment in all of the country. They've got amusement parks. They've got shows. I think it's 90 different shows, all of them honoring God, faith, and family. All family-friendly shows. Just so much fun. It's only an hour and 5 minutes away. And so we go off, and we've been going to Silver Dollar City. In fact, this week we're going again. We like it. It's fun. Just something to, many of you think we work all the time, and we usually do. But with our little granddaughter, we have been forced to go check out some other parts of Missouri because
and ride rides. Now Jim has somebody to ride rides with him.
Yeah, but she likes the teacups, people. The teacups are the most terrifying ride in America because there's no controlling how much you can spin. We get to do another event coming up this fall.
We do.
In Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Very exciting. So 94X, I guess they call it the 94X Summit, and we'll put the link in there so you can find out more about that. But Sean Copeland, the founder of Brangenbergs, 94X is really his. Well, he
wrote a book called 94X.
Yes.
Which is the fact that you spend 94% more of your time at work than you do at home. Let's see. The people that work for you spend 94 times more time with you than they do with their own family.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or church.
Or
Is
church.
it family or church?
Maybe it's
94.
Oh yeah, maybe it's 94% more time outside of the office than
read the book.
Read the book. Don't wait for the movie.
Anyway, we're getting to be involved in that summit this fall, and I think it's going to be another great gathering in the middle of our country. You can learn more about it at the link. I'll connect there in the show notes. You love it when I say that, I know, Jim. So let's talk about
right down
local.
There in the show notes.
Let's talk about local. Some of the things that God has been opening the doors for. First one I'm really proud of. Can I talk about it?
Okay.
All right. So there had been a tragedy in our town. Many lives were lost in an accident. Jim went to the fire chief and was talking to him and saying, what do you do when you have this kind of devastation? Is anybody praying with you? How are you getting help to process it from that perspective? Well, long story short, Jim is now, after many, many classes and tests and
just
training,
27.
He is now the official fire chaplain for the city of Marionville, Missouri.
City of Marionville Fire Department.
Yes.
Yes.
The fire chaplain.
The fire chaplain.
That's what yes.
Oh, okay.
So it's opened the door for a lot of opportunities to pray with people and to be a good support for those first responders, because I've never had my eyes so open to all that they deal with. You can't just change their outfit and go home and not be affected. It's amazing the things that they have to endure. So really amazing how you get to serve our city in that way, Jim, through the fire department. And I'm
learning how to be a firefighter at the same time. Slowly, but surely. Learn how to be a fire department.
How do you like wearing all that heavy gear?
Yeah, in the middle of July, wearing that heavy gear out in a car accident out on the highway was less than pleasant. So if you ever wonder, are these guys suffering? Yes.
Well,
Yes,
it's very sacrificial.
Bring them a bottle of water if you see them alongside of a car wreck, because they're thirsty. Believe me, people, they're thirsty.
They may not take time to drink it, but it's a nice thought. So what else, Jim, is
one
happening?
of the really cool things in town, because we're business owners in town and we rehabbed a building in town, we somehow got the ability to start helping our city, along with the mayor and the city council, to develop an economic development commission. we're committed. They haven't decided what they're going to call it yet, but we're working on a formal plan to attract businesses and people to the town of Marionville, a town that at one point in time was very much a thriving small town in America. And after all of big city moves in the 80s and the 90s has become a quiet town.
Well, like you were talking about Branson, we have heard through history that people from Branson used to come to Marionville to shop. Now, whether that's really true or not, I don't know.
We're going with that story.
But we're going to go with that. It's in this little history book that we have. So,
but along the lines of economic development, Martha.
Yes. So we really felt this need to gather the local business people. So we just developed something called Marionville Business Connect. We meet every month. We get to know each other. A lot of businesses locally are so busy trying to stay afloat that they don't look up and look out. And so that's one of the things we've really tried to encourage. And it's been great. It's new relationships have been, flourishing out of it. And I just think it's going to be a great asset to our town as we continue to learn more about each other and support the work that each other is doing. I need to go do a count. Every meeting we maybe have 20 people, but there's probably been 45 different businesses that have come through at different times. And, so I just want to encourage people, when you think you need to have some big fancy way to get people together, no, just open up the table, get some cookies, and invite people in.
Could it be the cookies?
No.
Or is it your shining personality?
No. It's the desire to really get to know each other, but not having the format for it, and just opening the doors and say, welcome in.
And that really led to the fact that, people don't read newspapers pretty much anymore because they're wicked expensive. I think my parents spend $100 a month to get the newspaper a day late.
Yeah, but they look good on the front porch.
They do. It's hilarious. So we decided to create a news podcast for our little town. We call it the Good Place Marionville Podcast. It's out there on Facebook under Good Place Marionville. And in this, we highlight the good that's happening in our little town. Maybe an idea for you in your town, because people, all they hear is the negative, but there's so much incredible positive, and we wanted our town to hear that, and they couldn't read it anywhere. And you know how Facebook pages can be. It's not always a highlight of the great that's going on. No. So we wanted to highlight that.
Sometimes it's the grumpy.
Sometimes it is. But so that's a new podcast that we're doing on a weekly basis. But also on another podcast that we've added to our cadre of things that we produce on a regular basis is the Digital Desperados podcast that we do alongside one of our major sponsors, SaferNet. The Digital Desperados podcast highlights really the lives of digital desperados, cyber criminals, and how they came to be and what they ended up doing. And really,
blows your mind.
It does blow your mind.
It blows
and we're
your mind.
doing it just to draw attention to SaferNet, but also to highlight the stories. Most people don't know the stories behind the crimes, yet most of us have been a victim of at least one cyber crime.
But like we talk about often when we're talking about SaferNet is the fact that a lot of people don't do anything about it until they've been hacked or until they've had a breach or until they've had something bad happen and a virus gets on their computer. And that's why we love SaferNet, because a simple proactive step can protect you from this unknown disaster that they talk about on the Digital Desperados.
Yeah, we have highlighted some great people that you will know their names. I check it out. It's on Apple Podcasts, all your regular podcast platforms.
I'll put the link
Digital
in the show notes.
Desperados.
Awesome. So, Jim, over the years, we have put a lot of things into place that help us to better align with our values while still giving us the great services we expect, because I think we still need to look for excellence. So I just want to share a few of those types of things with you all listening today. So for our medical needs, we use Samaritan Ministries, SamaritanMinistries.org, and that is a medical healthcare sharing organization.
Christian healthcare sharing.
And for our cell phones, we use Patriot Mobile, and you can go to patriotmobile.com/iWorkForHim to learn more about that. But right now you can support I Work For Him by making that same decision to switch over your cell phone service. And it is such an easy process. It's
why
seamless.
would they switch your cell phones? Because that's such a pain.
Because it's really not a pain. Patriot Mobile takes you through the whole thing with their U.S.-based customer service support. And they use all the same towers that we're all used to. So you're not compromising the service. You're not compromising what you're getting. But your dollars are going to things that support the very pillars of our conservative society. And it can be, I don't remember what all their pillars are, but I can...
It was faith, family, freedom.
And an amendment.
Oh, and the Second Amendment.
Second Amendment. So it's powerful, and it's a great way to not only put your vote with your dollars, but also support I Work for Him in the process. So you can find out all about all of our sponsors by going to iworkforhim.com/sponsors and learn about the ways that you can get involved in using organizations that better support your values.
Yeah, before we end this, one of our longest podcasts of the year, we want to just talk about where we're heading this fall. I started with our next podcast. You can check it out at shifttowith.com, shifttowith.com, because that's where our focus is going. For the last 11 and a half years, we talked about how do you work for God? What does it look like for people to work for God? But what we realize is that most people, while working for God, forget to work with God. And that He wants to be involved in the intimate details of our lives, specifically our work. And all we have to do is ask Him. When we've got a problem at work, God, what's your solution here? When we're trying to hire somebody, is this the person we should hire, Father? When we're walking down the street and you see somebody, Father, should I stop and talk to them today? How do we learn to work with God? So often we're striving, we're trying to work. I'm going to work for God. And we're trying to do all these great things for God. And He's going, hey, I'm over here. I'd like you to work with me over here. And we just lose it. So look for our shows. The interviews all this fall will be of people who have figured out how to work with God. And check out what I've had to say about it at shifttowith.com, which will take you right to our I Work for Him website on a page on Shift to With. Are we going to change the organization name from I Work for Him to I Work with Him? I don't know. You'll just have to stay tuned.
Lean not on your own understanding. That's really one of the big key to all that we've been talking about today. But Jim, there is one more project. Well, there's probably a lot more projects, but one more that we're going to bring up today, which is our the next thing that God really is wanting us to speak into marriages. We have had a passion and a heart for breaking marriages, and not just breaking marriages.
We have had a heart for breaking marriages?
If they're breaking.
For helping marriages that are breaking. Okay.
But also before they're breaking,
yeah.
We really want to strengthen up, to shore up, to feed into and see the value of working on your marriage every day. And so what is the name? Are we going to say the name? The title?
Absolutely, we're going to say
the title that God has given you that, yes, it will get your attention.
Well, I just wanted you to know, before we're writing this book, first of all, we've been married almost 40 years. We've also, which is hard to believe, we've known each other 42 years
we're not
already.
Nearly that old.
No, not nearly that old. Not even nearly that old. We've done 12 marriage retreats. We have mentored 75 entrepreneurial couples. This is something that we're just tired of people not hearing it from the pulpit. We need people to hear it more from the pulpit. Pastors, if you're listening, please do marriage series. Teach people how to be married successfully. But if you don't want to and you want to refer people to our book, look for a book coming soon to a bookstore near you. I don't know, but for sure to Amazon sometime in 2025. The name of the book? Get the Hell Out of Your Marriage. You've been listening to I Work for Him with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers. Our workplace, it's our mission field. But ultimately, I work for Him.
This episode of I Work for Him is brought to you by SaferNet, online at safernet.com.
Business owners, listen up. Criminals and search engines do not need to know everything you do on the internet. SaferNet VPN ensures your company's safety with its powerful cybersecurity defenses. Explore the Control Center dashboard for seamless management. Shield your workforce from inappropriate web content using 84 internet filters. Trust SaferNet VPN, your path to worry-free online operations. Get secured now. Sign up at safernet.com. That's safernet.com.
Did you know that God has a calling on your life? It's true. He's called you to bring Jesus to the world. For some, that may look like a pulpit or a foreign mission field, but for most of us, it looks like a construction site, a cubicle, a hospital, or a classroom. Wherever it is that you work, live, volunteer, and invest, that is your mission field. To learn more about integrating your faith into your work and retirement, check out our books, I Work for Him, She Works for Him, and I Retire for Him, by going to iworkforhim.com/bookstore.
Thanks for listening to the I Work for Him podcast with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work to join the I Work for Him Nation or subscribe to our weekly blog. You can also follow us on social media at I Work for Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's at I Work for Him and online at iworkforhim.com. I work, the number 4, him.com.